As they walk back to the Airbnb, Allie tells the readers another update about the Brad investigation. The police never questioned her, but they interviewed Erica. Brad was last seen near a private airport in Quebec, and the theory that Brad's family helped him to charter a private plane to get away. That's going to fall to pieces the second they actually look into the finances, but whatever. This is the epilogue, and I'm not sure that I care. Hello and welcome to Procrastination Point's video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Lights Out by Navessa Allen. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 25. Allie is awoken to the masked man standing over her. For a second, she forgot everything and is overcome with fear. However, even when she does acknowledge that it is Josh, her boyfriend, she is still a little afraid. Which, baby girl, is that not exactly what you wanted? You don't get to beg for excitement for the masked man to break in and have his way with you, and then complain when he does exactly that. However, as they get to it, I can't help but feel like the book is finally getting back to the actual plot, which is the spicy content between Allie and Josh. Everything else felt like a random side story that amounted to basically nothing. And that makes me feel more than a little frustrated because we're 3 chapters from the end right now. Anyway, they start doing neck play and that obviously gets Allie going. She remembers that this actually does turn her on, blah blah blah. The rest of the chapter is them getting it on. It's kind of more what I'd been expecting for their first time to be like rather than that bland scene in the shower. But whatever, I'm not sure that it matters all that much. The chapter ends with them opening the bedroom door and finding Fred the cat, because the narration is obsessed with him and the author doesn't seem to understand how cats function. The narration asks, like he knew what had just gone on in there, which is weird. I promise you that cats actually don't give a hoot. Times left in this chapter, 0. Total left this book, 1. Chapter 26. Some time passes and Josh and Allie get ready to head to Uncle Nico's house for their first dinner. Josh tells the readers that he and Allie can't seem to keep their hands to themselves, that they have to implement force breaks simply to prevent themselves from being sore later, which is honestly unimpressive to me. They've barely been together for a singular month at this point. Come back when it's been a year. Anyway, they stand on the top step of Nico's house and basically talk about how much that they'd rather be boning one another. But when Nico comes out and they feel awkward because it's obvious that Nico had heard a little of that. Then the narration starts to talk about Nico's wife, who's apparently got ties with the IRA, which feels even more randomly tacked on than the mob business. They make more awkward small talk for way too long before Josh and Allie join the others in the living room. It's obvious that Nico wants for this to be more of a grown-ups having wine and making small talk kind of thing, but Allie demands to know what's going on with the Brad investigation and is frustrated when the entire family is basically, there's an order to things, please be patient. Josh then pauses the plot to explain to the readers that he'd been following the Brad case as it broke on TV, that they were trying to find more Brad's victims but could only really put the 2 the police had found in the house, that a man matching Brad's description had been seen on a security camera up near Canada using his debit card. That's obviously the man mentioned by Junior earlier. Although Brad's parents had been helpful with the initial discovery of the 2 bodies, it seems as though they were a little more in the loop than previously thought. Their lawyers are stonewalling the police again, which, give it up. Brad's secret is already out. It won't be long before yours come out as well. Then Josh's thoughts take a random left into comparing his father to the mob. He talks about how rich that Nico is, how fancy his house is, that despite how much hurt that Josh's father caused, at least he murdered girls for funsies. The mob is making money from all of the hurt and terror that they cause. After dinner is over, Nico finally starts to answer their questions. Everything that they did in Brad's house can't be pointed back to the crew, but Nico also goes on to explain that he had Josh and Allie wear shoes that were too small, and goes on to say that they were actually Brad's size. So now the police think that it was Brad who had run away from the house, although that wouldn't account for why there were 2 sets of footprints. Nico goes on to say that when the police found Brad's phone, there was evidence that he had looked into Allie, but also her co-worker Erica, who matched Brad's previous victims. He thinks that the police might go to question Allie about her interactions with him, but feels that the police are too busy chasing down other leads to interview a random nurse at the hospital. He continues on and says that a lot of sex workers had vanished over the past 4 years, and they now think that Brad played a part in that, but the police didn't care about them for the usual reasons. On top of the suspected murders, they're also talking to who's living victims. The fact that they can now say with confidence that he raped women kind of tells you about how much judicial corruption was going on. When Nico starts to talk about the judges and lawyers who are also being investigated, Josh feels like Allie's name is one of thousands. She's unimportant to this investigation. If this wasn't the end of the book, I might question if the other shoe really was about to drop. However, I'm uncertain if the author is going to spin this off into a full series or not. Let's hope that this remains as a standalone book. They're about to leave, but Allie pops in to use the toilet before they go. Now alone with Nico, Josh finally decides to confront that he knows that Nico knows about his dad. In comparison to his father, Nico doesn't scare Josh. Josh also says that he recorded the conversation that they'd had. That is not so much as blackmail, but in case Nico decides to try and hurt Josh or Allie. Nico responds exactly how you think, but before he can say anything, Allie comes out from the bathroom, so the two men quickly act like they'd been joking around. Outside in the car, Josh tells Allie what really happened. However, Josh is certain that keeping the peace is in Nico's best interest. Allie is really turned on at the thought of Josh going all alpha. They then start talking about his channel, about how Josh's followers now know Allie has been helping Josh with his videos and have started following her. However, she complains that most of the comments she gets on her own content are angry that she's with Josh. I said this a lot in Funny You Should Ask, and I'm going to keep saying it until the end of time, but most likely. But simply because you enjoy the content somebody puts out, be it a major Hollywood movie or a TikTok video, doesn't mean that these celebrities actually know you, and when you start flinging hate onto a hot TikTok star's girlfriend, you're the problem here. Times left in this chapter, 0. Total left this book, 1. Epilogue. At the end of the previous chapter, Ellie had talked about going away to the mountains where Josh could chase her through the woods. I didn't think much of it at the time because I never actually thought that we'd see it. I was wrong. This starts with several pages of Ellie running through the woods, but eventually decides that this isn't half as fun as she thought that it would be. And when Josh does catch up with her, it's also not really sexy. However, the actual intercourse makes her change her opinion. Ugh. I'm so glad that this is the epilogue. After he finishes, Ellie blurts out, "Marry me!" Josh is taken aback by this, but then he pulls out a ruby engagement ring and proposes to her on the spot. As they walk back to the Airbnb, Ellie tells the readers another update about the Brad investigation. The police never questioned her, but they interviewed Erica. Brad was last seen near a private airport in Quebec, and the theory that Brad's family helped him to charter a private plane to get away. That's going to fall to pieces the second they actually look into the finances, but whatever. This is the epilogue, and I'm not sure that I care. When they get back to the Airbnb, they're upset to find that there's toilet paper everywhere. They'd gotten another cat to keep Fred company, but together the two of them were mischievous and were destroying the property. Then they start to talk about having actual children. Josh wants a boatload. Allie wants 2. I think that is gross that Josh is demanding such high numbers, considering that he himself will not have to carry them for 9 months, push them out from his body, and then need to breastfeed. Times left in this chapter, 0. Total left this book, 1. So, final thoughts time. Overall, every single thing about this book felt so forced and awkward. I'm not sure that I would have kept a running count of times that I laughed if this book hadn't advertised itself as a rom-com. For sure, it felt like it was written by a 12-year-old eyeballs deep in her "I'm 12 and this is deep" face. Even when I did acknowledge that something had clearly been written as a joke, I always viewed the entire thing as no sweaty, we're 100% laughing at you. It's also worth noting that the singular time that I did laugh, it was a throwaway line about Allie's dead mother. The romance aspect of the novel was terrible. It also really wasn't that dark, all things considered. The most prominent plot-driven darkness was about Brad. And I said it when Brad broke into Allie's home, but why is it when Josh broke in to have sex with Allie that it's romantic and exciting? But when Brad does it, it's creepy and weird. This was literally never explained. I'm kind of on the fence about the entire Brad subplot, mainly because I've read a lot of other novels where nothing but the two characters banging for chapter after chapter. The endless banging got old after a while. However, the mob subplot came out of nowhere, served no point but to artificially prolong the life of this tedious book and never amounted to anything. And is it bad that I kind of felt the same way about Josh's serial killer father? It seemed to have been shoved in there as some sort of excuse for Josh's odd behavior, but I think I prefer it when my men have vague and mysterious backgrounds, rather than a tragic backstory that drags the plot down and ends up serving 0 point in the end. Going back to the romance aspect, the timeline of this book was so miserable. They were confessing their love for one another after like a week. By the epilogue, it was probably only 2 months after the start of the book. I've said the same thing in a lot of these kind of books, but the problem persists, and I'll probably keep saying it forever. But the only thing that Josh and Allie had in common was their desire for kinky sex, and while it's good that they have such good bedroom chemistry, how about if we see them doing literally anything else? Something preferably unrelated to hiding a dead body. This is yet another case of I don't see them lasting until Christmas, and that's being generous. Once the magic is worn off and they're settling down into their lives, they'll probably realize that it's not a great idea to base their entire relationship around constantly banging. I normally take the time to explain how I would fix the book, but the problem is, I'm not sure that you can without taking out load-bearing plot points. This was nothing but an unsalvageable mess. Anyway, now I'm announcing my next YouTube read, Cruel by Jennifer Albin. That will begin next Monday as usual. Thanks for listening to my Book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book. Snark's always free and updated every morning. The only edit to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more book Snarks starting at $1 a month. Also new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is, but not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys. However, she complains that most of the comments she gets on her... Why? Tessa! I said this a lot in Funny You Should Ask. Tessa!